Welcome back to the Motivated Mind Zone. Glad to have you here.
Great to be back. And we've got a really critical deep dive lined up for you today. We're focusing on achieving financial success, but really by adopting a specific mindset.
It is.
Managing your money, not just, adequately, but like the world's wealthiest.
Yeah.
Actually do it, the 1%.
Okay, that's a big claim. So our mission today is to break down a specific, actionable framework. It comes from a multimillionaire entrepreneur, and it's called the 25-15-50-10 rule.
Exactly. And the core idea here, it's a bit tough maybe, is that it's actually dramatically less important how much money you earn.
Right.
And far, far more important how you manage, protect, and crucially grow the money you already have.
Okay, let's start where the source material really grabbed us, with a statistic that was, frankly, pretty shocking. It challenges that whole conventional path to wealth.
Yeah, it really does. When you look at the global breakdown of who the wealthiest individuals actually are, the numbers are pretty stark. About 75% are entrepreneurs.
75%, wow.
Yeah. Then you've got 15% who are dedicated investors, 7% are inheritors, people with substantial trusts, and so on.
All right.
And then the last 3% are your artists, creators, elite athletes, people with really rare monetizable talents.
And here's the kicker, the part that just stops you in your tracks. 0%. Literally 0% of the world's wealthiest people got their primary foundational wealth just by being a salaried employee. A standard 9-to-5 job.
It sounds harsh, I know, and people listening might be thinking, hold on, what about doctors, lawyers, high-paid execs?
Wait, the brain surgeon making $500,000 a year?
Exactly. But the source isn't saying those jobs are bad, not at all. What it's highlighting is the common thread, the thing that links those top four categories together.
And that is?
Ownership. Simple as that. Entrepreneurs own businesses. Investors own assets that appreciate. Inheritors own trusts, which are basically bundles of assets. And creators, they own rare skills or intellectual property.
So the system fundamentally rewards owning something that generates income without you having to trade your time directly for it hour after hour.
Precisely. And the warning from the source is pretty blunt. If you own nothing, then financially speaking, you are owned. You're completely reliant on someone else's payroll.
Ouch.
Yeah. So this 25-15-50-10 rule, it's designed to force that transition, to use the salary you have now as the capital, the seed money, to move from being owned to becoming an owner.
Okay, let's unpack that journey into ownership. The sources start with this critique of the modern financial trap. They argue the whole system is basically set up to make people feel rich for maybe a week after payday.
And then stressed and broke by month end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a system built on constant consumption. The source even calls it a kind of modern slavery.
Strong words.
Well, think about it. Your main costs, housing, food, water, basic transport, these are exactly the things historically provided to laborers. You get a salary, sure, but you immediately spend it right back on those same essentials.
The difference being the feeling, the illusion of freedom because we chose the job.
Exactly, but you're still working primarily just to cover basic survival. Recognizing that illusion, that's the first spark of the 1% mindset, and it leads straight into the first, most critical part of the role. The 25% mandate for growth.
25%. Okay, so a quarter of your income has to go straight towards buying assets, things that actually appreciate and ideally fill your wallet back up over time.
And this is non-negotiable in their system. Most people, what do? Pay bills, spend what's left, and then maybe try to save something?
Which is usually nothing.
Right. The 1% approach flips that entirely. You prioritize the future first, 25% for growth, 15% for stability, we'll get to that, and only then do you live on the remaining 60%. It's about prioritizing future ownership over just consuming today.
Okay, but hang on. 25%, that sounds like a huge chunk right off the bat. If someone's listening and they're just scraping by right now, how do they suddenly jump to putting aside a quarter of their income? Is there like a ramp up?
That's a really important point. And yes, the sources are clear. If 25% feels impossible right now, you start smaller. Start with 5%. Start with 1%. even.
Just start.
Just start immediately. The key is creating the habit of paying your future self first, no matter how small the amount. Then you commit to increasing that percentage every 3 months, every 6 months, definitely every time you get a raise or a bonus,
Yeah.
inch it upwards.
And the power of starting early, even small, is just incredible. The source uses this anecdote, Billy versus Phil, to show compound growth in action.
Yeah, let's break down those numbers because they really drive it home. So Billy starts investing $200 a month. He's young, starts at 20, keeps it up for 40 years. His total cash contribution, $96,000.
Okay.
Now Phil, he waits, starts at 30, but he invests more, $300 a month for 30 years. So his total cash in is actually a bit higher, $108,000.
Right, so Phil put in more money.
He did. But let's assume they both get that historical average market return, say 10% a year, which the S&P 500 has delivered long term. By age 60, Phil, the later starter who put in more cash, he ends up with a very decent $670,146.
Not bad at all.
Not bad. But Billy, the one who started a decade earlier with less money per month, he ends up with a staggering $564,816.
Whoa.
Yeah. He put in $12,000 less of his own money, but ended up with almost $600,000 more, just because his money had an extra 10 years to work to compound.
That perfectly illustrates it. Time is your biggest asset. Delaying costs you way more than you think.
Exponentially more. Most people just don't grasp the scale of loss from delaying.
Okay, so listeners are convinced. They're committing to that 25% or working towards it. Where does the money actually go? The source gives this really helpful asset risk scale, right? Start safe and build up.
Absolutely. Foundational wealth, number one on the list. Index funds. This is where they say beginners should absolutely start.
Why index funds specifically?
Because you're not trying to be a genius stock picker. You're not betting on just Apple or just Tesla. You buy an index fund, like one tracking the S&P 500, and boom, you instantly own a tiny slice of 500 of the biggest, most successful companies in the U.S.
Instant diversification.
Exactly. It smooths out the risk. If one company tanks, it barely registers in your overall portfolio. It's passive, low stress, no need to watch charts all day.
Okay, step one, index funds. What's next up? The risk ladder.
Number 2 is real estate. Now, if you've got serious capital, that could mean buying a rental property yourself. But for most people starting out, the better route is REITs, real estate investment trusts.
REITs. Explain those quickly.
Think of a REIT like being a tiny silent partner in a huge portfolio of properties, shopping malls, apartment buildings, office towers. You get the benefits of real estate appreciation and often dividend income, but without needing a massive down payment or dealing with tenants and toilets.
Got it. Fractional ownership of big real estate. Makes sense. What's number 3?
Number 3 is interesting. Skills. The source argues that learning a high-value, income-generating skill, think advanced copywriting, specialized coding, high-ticket sales, can actually offer the fastest ROI.
How is a skill an asset in this context?
Because it's a form of ownership you control completely. No market crash can take away your ability to code or sell effectively. But it requires significant time investment to develop that skill. That's why it's slightly riskier in terms of upfront effort than just buying an index fund passively. Plus, building skills feeds into increasing your income later, which is crucial.
Okay, skills are powerful. What's higher risk?
Number 4, online businesses. Things like dropshipping, creating and selling digital courses, niche consulting online. The potential upside is huge, massive growth potential,
What?
but it requires enormous effort, constant learning, and frankly, the failure rate is very high. High risk, high potential reward.
Number 5.
Single stocks. Picking individual companies. The source is really clear on this. Unless you are a deep financial expert who does this for a living, treat it like a guessing game.
So maybe a tiny part of your portfolio for fun.
Exactly. A small recreational allocation. Money you can truly afford to lose if your hunch about that one company goes wrong. Not where you build your core wealth.
And finally, the top of the risk pyramid.
Number 6. Alternative investments. This is your Bitcoin, Ethereum, NFTs, maybe even collectibles like rare wine or sneakers. The source calls these a lottery,
Meaning?
meaning only put in money you would be perfectly okay with losing entirely, like overnight. The volatility is extreme. Treat it as speculation, not foundational investing.
Okay, that scale is super helpful. Index funds first, then maybe REITs or skills. Be cautious with online biz and single stocks, and treat crypto alternatives like the lottery. Got it.
Now, knowing what to buy is step one. Step two for maximizing that 25% growth is absolutely critical. Leveraging tax-advantaged accounts. This is how the wealthy legally shield their growth from taxes as much as possible.
Right, this where you can really boost your returns over time, yeah. If you're not using these, you're just leaving money on the table for the taxman every year.
You really are. Let's look at the UK first. The big one is the Stock and Shares ISA individual savings account. You can put in up to £20,000 a year.
And the growth.
Completely tax-free. Dividends, capital gains when you sell zero tax. It's incredibly powerful. And they also stress maximizing your workplace pension. Your employer's contributions are literally free money, and all the growth inside is tax-deferred. You only pay tax way down the line when you retire.
Okay, what about for our U.S. listeners?
The gold standard, arguably, is the Roth IRA. Key difference. You invest money after you've paid income tax on it.
So post-tax money goes in.
Right. But the magic happens later. All the growth over decades and all the withdrawals you take in retirement, completely, 100% tax-free.
Wow, okay. Tax-free growth and withdrawals. What's the alternative?
The 401k. This is more common through employers. Here, you invest money before taxes are taken out.
Pre-tax, so it lowers your taxable income now.
Exactly. You get an immediate tax break today. The money grows tax deferred, similar to the UK pension. But when you eventually withdraw the money in retirement, you pay income tax on it then.
So Roth is pay tax now, get tax-free later. 401k is get tax break now, pay tax later. Both good options for that 25%.
Both excellent vehicles. The choice often depends on whether you think you'll be in a higher tax bracket now or in retirement. But using one or both is crucial.
And that Peter Thiel example really shows the power, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Using his Roth IRA, because the rules allowed it then, he invested in early-stage startups, PayPal, Facebook. Because all that growth within the Roth is tax-free, reports say he turned a relatively small initial amount into over $5 billion, legally shielded from billions in capital gains tax.
Mind-blowing. It shows the account type matters almost as much as the investment itself.
It really does. The structure is key.
Okay, nail the assets, nail the tax accounts. Step 3 is making it happen consistently. Automation. Why is this step 3? Shouldn't we automate first to beat temptation?
It's a fair question, but the source argues you need to know where the money's going and why first. If you just automate blindly without understanding, say, index funds, you might panic and sell the first time the market dips. You need the conviction first.
No, okay. Understand the plan, then automate the execution.
Precisely. But once the plan is set, automation is non-negotiable. The goal is simple. Set up those transfers for the 25% to happen automatically on payday. Move it out of your checking account before you even see it, before you have a chance to spend it emotionally.
Systems over willpower. That's a recurring theme. And for automating, the source recommends a simple, effective structure. The 3-fund portfolio.
Yeah, often called pies on modern platforms. You just set your target percentages once, say, 60% this, 30% that, 10% the other, and the platform automatically buys the right amounts for you every month. No fiddling needed.
Okay, so if I'm setting up my pie right now, what are the 3 core ingredients?
Ingredient 1, a U.S. stock index fund. Get broad exposure to the U.S. market. Think S&P 500 tracker or a total market fund like Vanguard's VTSAX. Own a piece of Apple, Amazon, all the big players.
Got it. U.S. stocks. Ingredient 2.
An international index fund. Don't put all your eggs in one country's basket. Invest in companies across other developed markets, Europe, Japan, Canada, etc. A good example is something like the iShares MSCI World UCITS ETF, ticker IWDA. If the U.S. market has a bad decade, your international holdings provide balance.
Diversify globally. Makes sense. And the third ingredient.
A bond fund. This adds stability to the growth portfolio. You're basically lending money to governments, typically. Bonds are less volatile than stocks. They zig when stocks zag sometimes, helping to cushion the portfolio during market downturns. Something like the iShares USD Treasury Bond 7-10-year ETF, ticker IBTM, is an example.
So U.S. stocks, international stocks, and bonds. How do you decide the percentages?
It depends on your age and risk tolerance. Younger investor, longer time horizon, you can be more aggressive. Maybe 90% stocks, split like 60% US, 30% international, and only 10% bonds. Closer to retirement or just more cautious, maybe shift to 70% stocks, 30% bonds, or even 60-40.
Okay, customizable based on risk. And there was a key detail about accumulation funds.
Yes, super important for maximizing compound growth. Always choose accumulation or INC versions of these funds if available, not distribution or Inc. versions. Right. Accumulation funds automatically reinvest any dividends or interest they receive right back into buying more shares of the fund for you, instantly. Distribution funds pay those dividends out to your cash account.
And then you have to manually reinvest it, which you might forget or delay.
Exactly. It introduces inefficiency and relies on your discipline. Automated reinvestment via accumulation funds just turbocharges the compounding effect silently in the background.
Set it, forget it, let it accumulate. Okay, so once that 25% automated system is running into a diversified, tax-advantaged three-fund portfolio, your main job is just don't touch it and increase the contribution when you can.
That's the essence of the growth engine.
Right. Let's move to the next slice. If 25% is about building the future, the next 15% is all about protecting that future. This is the 15% rule for stability. It's the financial cushion, the peace of mind fund.
And protection is absolutely paramount. The source really hammers this home. Most people don't fail financially because they picked a bad stock. They fail because life happens, unexpected bills, car breaks down, job loss, and they have no buffer.
So they're forced to sell their investments.
Exactly. They have to raid that 25% growth fund, often at the worst possible time when the market is down, locking in huge losses and derailing their long-term plan. Stability prevents that.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to the pain of instability. The source author shared his own story, buying a VW Golf on credit when he was 18, zero savings.
And the engine blew 3 months later, right?
Yeah. He had no cash, so he had to take out another high-interest loan just to fix the car so he could get to work. That one incident, he said, set him back financially by a whole year. Stability is the foundation.
Absolutely. So how do you build this stability fund? Step 1 is calculating your target amount. You need to figure out your base monthly expenses.
And be really strict about base.
Totally strict. Rent or mortgage, essential groceries, not restaurants, utilities, basic transport to work, minimum payments on essential debts. That's it.
So definitely not Netflix, not the gym you barely use, not your clothing subscription box.
Nope. Strip it down to the bare minimum you need to survive and keep earning. Get that monthly number. Let's use the sources example. Say it's $1,500 a month.
Okay, $1,500 baseline. Then what?
Then you multiply that by 5 months. The source strongly recommends 5 months of cover, arguing that the old 3 months advice often isn't enough. When things go wrong, they often cascade.
5 months feels safer. So $1,500 times 5 gives a target stability fund of $7,500 in that example.
Correct. And that 15% of your income every single month goes directly towards building that $7,500 reserve until it's fully funded.
Where do you keep this money? Because it's not for investing.
Definitely not. Step 2 is storing it correctly. This 15% is pure defense, pure insurance. It leads to 3 ironclad rules for where this stability money lives.
Rule number 1.
Accessibility. You need to be able to get your hands on this cash within 24 hours max, no questions asked.
So no locking it up in term deposits or accounts with withdrawal penalties.
Absolutely not. If you lose your job Friday afternoon, you need access Monday morning.
Rule 2.
Zero risk. This is critical. Never, ever store your stability fund in anything volatile. Not the stock market, not crypto, not even long-term bonds that can fluctuate in value.
Because if a real crisis hits, those things might be down exactly when you need the money most.
Precisely. It defeats the entire purpose. You cannot afford for your safety net to shrink by 20% just when you need it.
Okay, accessible, zero risk. Rule 3.
It must earn something. While it's not for growth, you can't just let inflation chew away at its value sitting in a zero-interest checking account. You need to put it in a high-yield savings account, HYSA.
But these are offering pretty decent rates now, like 4% or 5% sometimes.
Exactly. It helps offset inflation, keeps your purchasing power somewhat stable. And crucially, especially for U.S. listeners, make sure the bank or platform offering the HYSA is FDIC insured.
Why is FDIC insurance so important here?
It means the U.S. government guarantees your cash up to $250,000 per depositor per institution. Even if the bank itself fails, your stability fund is safe. It's the ultimate security blanket. Look for reputable platforms like SoFi, Ally, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, places known for safety and decent yields.
Safe, accessible, and earning a little something to fight inflation.
Yeah.
Got it. How do you fill this fund up quickly? The source had some tactics.
Yeah. 3 aggressive tactics to hit that 5-month target faster. Tactic 1, the paycheck cut. Just like the growth fund, automate that 15% transfer on payday. Move it straight into the HYSA, out of sight, out of mind.
Makes sense. Tactic 2.
The replacement promise. This is about discipline after you use the fund. Let's say you have an emergency, spend $500 from your stability fund for a crucial repair. You must promise yourself to replenish that exact $500 immediately with your next paycheck or within 30 days max.
So you don't just deplete it and forget, you always bring it back to full strength.
Exactly. It maintains the integrity of the reserve. And tactic 3, aggressive saving through spending and windfalls. Basically, throw everything extra at the stability fund until it's full. Any bonus from work, tax refund, money from selling stuff online, all of it goes straight into the HYSA. Use Roundup apps, funnel all your credit card cash back, or sign-up bonuses directly into it.
Accelerate filling it. And once that 5-month stability fund is full, what happens to the 15% stream then?
That's the beauty. Once it's full, you redirect that 15%. You could boost your growth fund from 25% to 40%, accelerating your path to ownership. Or you could allocate it towards the final category, rewards, which we'll get to. The key is the stability base is secured first.
Okay, 25% growth, 15% stability secured. Now for the biggest chunk, the 50% rule for basic needs. This is the money for rent, food, bills, the stuff you live on day to day. But only 50%.
And this is where the discipline really bites for most people, even high earners. Lifestyle inflation is the enemy here. The source points out that shocking stat, over 60% of Americans earning 6 figures are still living paycheck to paycheck.
They're spending it as fast as it comes in, focused on looking rich, not being rich.
Exactly. It's that trap of appearance versus reality. The host of the source video shared a great story about a friend back in his 20s. This friend always had the designer clothes, the expensive car, looked super successful.
While the host himself was wearing, like, baggy sweats.
Yeah. But the hidden truth, the friend had less than $50 in his bank account, bills piling up. The host, meanwhile, had his stability fund sorted and his investments growing quietly. Wealth is what you don't see. It's the assets, the reserves.
So sticking to this 50% limit for needs forces you to confront that, to prioritize actual wealth over just the appearance of it.
Precisely. And it requires getting crystal clear on what a need actually is. Needs are things that genuinely support your life, your health, your ability to earn. Housing, basic food, groceries, not fancy meals out. Utilities, essential transport, necessary insurance, basic clothing for work or weather.
And what's definitely not a need, according to this rule,
Takeout coffee every day, paying way over the minimum on low-interest debt just 'cause those streaming services you forgot you subscribed to, the expensive gym membership you used twice last year. If it doesn't directly help you live, work, or stay healthy and safe, it probably falls outside this 50%.
The point of the 50% cap isn't just arbitrary, is it? It's to force a change in focus.
Right. The average person might be spending 60%, 70%, even 80% on things they think are basic needs. Forcing yourself down to 50% makes you actively look for ways to reduce those fixed costs. And maybe more importantly, it motivates you to increase your income so that 50% represents a larger absolute amount, giving you more breathing room while still funding growth and stability.
Okay, so how do you actually get down to 50% if you're currently way over? The source focuses on the biggest levers, the big two killers.
Yeah.
Forget agonizing over lattes, focus here first.
Exactly. Killer number one, housing. This is usually everyone's biggest expense. The key insight is that this cost doesn't have to automatically rise just because your income does.
What are the tactics?
Well, first, try renegotiating your rent when the lease is up. Landlords hate vacancies. Often they'll give a small discount or keep the rent flat for a good, reliable tenant rather than risk weeks of lost rent and the hassle of finding someone new. It costs nothing to ask.
Okay, renegotiate. What else? Especially in expensive cities.
The more aggressive but super effective approach, house hacking. This means finding ways to drastically cut or even eliminate your housing cost. Renting out a spare room on Airbnb or to a lodger. Maybe living with roommates longer than you planned, or even temporarily moving back in with parents if that's an option, specifically to funnel huge amounts into your growth and stability funds quickly.
Short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. Keep housing under tight control. What's the second big killer?
Transport. Specifically, car payments. The source calls them wealth killers.
Why so harsh?
Because you're making large monthly payments, plus insurance, plus fuel, plus maintenance, all for an asset that is guaranteed to lose value rapidly over time. It's the opposite of the assets you're trying to buy with your 25%.
So what's the recommendation? Never own a car.
Not necessarily. The recommendation is buy smart. Buy a reliable used car, ideally 3 to 4 years old. Why? Because it's already gone through its steepest depreciation phase.
Explain that depreciation hit.
A brand new car loses maybe 10% of its value the second you drive it off the lot, and often 20% to 30% in the very first year alone. By buying a gently used car, you let the first owner absorb that massive financial hit. You get a perfectly good car, potentially saving thousands up front that can go straight into your growth fund.
Will someone else pay for the new car smell?
Yeah.
Smart. Any other transport tips?
Yeah, if you live in a city with decent public transport or walkability, seriously consider ditching the car altogether. Calculate the total cost payments, insurance, gas, parking, repairs. It can easily add up to hundreds, even over $1,000 a month in some cases.
Freeing that up would make hitting the 25% and 15% targets way easier.
Massively easier. It's a huge potential saving.
Okay, tackle housing and transport first. Then, for all the smaller day-to-day spending within that 50% limit, it's about having a system, not relying on willpower.
Absolutely. Willpower is fickle. It fails when you're tired, stressed, bored, or see something shiny. But wealthy use systems to make good decisions automatic. The source gives a simple 3-question filter for any non-essential purchase you're considering.
Question 1.
Is this an impulse purchase? Am I buying this just because I saw it right now and got excited? If the answer is yes, or even maybe, you must apply the 7-day rule.
The 7-day rule.
You force yourself to wait 1 full week before buying it. Put it on a list, walk away. The idea is to let the initial emotional rush, the dopamine hit, the fear of missing out, let all that completely fade.
And if after 7 days you still genuinely want or need it?
Then you move to question 2. Is this purchase driven by brand or by value? Be honest. Are you buying it for the logo, the status, because of clever marketing, or because it's high quality, durable, and genuinely serves a purpose well.
This is where that cost per wear idea comes in.
Oh, exactly. Think about it. High quality $60 shoes you wear 100 times. That's 60 cents per wear. Great value. Trendy $200 designer shoes you wear twice because they're uncomfortable or go out of style. That's $100 per wear. Terrible value. Focus on durability and function over fleeting fashion or brand hype.
Focus on value. Got it. And the final question.
Question 3. Will this genuinely and meaningfully improve my life? If the honest answer is no, then you're likely buying it just to impress other people or for that temporary feel-good hit or out of boredom, and it's probably not worth sacrificing your bigger financial goals for.
Impulse, value, life improvement. Using those 3 questions consistently would definitely make you pause and think before swiping the card.
It helps rewire your spending habits automatically, taking emotion out of it.
Okay, that covers the big 50% for needs,
Yeah.
which leaves the final 10%. This is the 10% rule for rewards, or as you put it, for sanity.
Yes, and this 10% is arguably the most important piece for making the whole system stick long term. It's the cheat meal of personal finance.
Why is it so crucial? Why not just funnel that 10% into growth too?
Because pure austerity, pure deprivation, it just doesn't work for most humans long term. The source cited a stat. Something like 92% of people who try super strict, painful saving regimes end up failing spectacularly. They crack.
And then they overspend massively to compensate.
Exactly. Because saving without any room for joy or reward feels like a punishment. This 10% is the strategic release valve. It's the planned enjoyment that makes the discipline in the other 90% feel sustainable, not miserable.
So it's not just blow money, it's strategic spending for long-term adherence.
Yeah.
What should we spend this 10% on for maximum sanity ROI?
The focus should be on things that provide high value beyond just the physical item, things that generate positive emotions, memories, reduce stress, or build connections. Low guilt, high impact spending.
Okay, like what? Category 1.
Number 1, connecting back to that entrepreneur mindset. Vacations and travel. You're not just buying a flight and hotel, you're buying memories, experiences, perspective shifts, and crucially, stress reduction.
The Source founder had that story about getting shingles from stress.
Yeah, working himself into the ground, avoiding any breaks. His doctor literally ordered him to take a ski trip. And he realized it wasn't an expense. It was an essential investment in his health and continued productivity. It prevented burnout.
Investing in rest and recovery. Okay, category 2.
Hobbies. Things you're genuinely passionate about: drawing, gaming, photography, playing music, woodworking, whatever it is. These aren't frivolous. They restore your energy. They give you something engaging outside of work and finances, which helps you sustain focus when you are working or saving.
Restorative spending. Makes sense. Category 3.
Social life and events. Dinners out with friends, concerts, going to games. The source emphasizes that building and maintaining social connections is critically important, both for mental well-being and even for professional networking sometimes. Isolation isn't healthy or productive.
Yeah, the founder admitted he neglected friends early in his career and damaged relationships he had to work hard to mend later. So investing in connection is key.
Definitely. And category 4 flows from that. Gifts for others. This isn't about random consumerism. It's about intentionally strengthening relationships.
The host also admitted making this mistake, being so laser-focused on business, he'd forget birthdays or anniversaries.
Right. And the gift itself isn't the point. It's the thought, the attention, the signal that you value the connection. It strengthens the support system around you, which is vital for long-term resilience and happiness.
Okay, vacations, hobbies, social life, gifts. High-value, low-guilt spending. How do you manage this 10% tactically?
You create the joy jar. Literally, Open a separate bank account, maybe even nickname it Joy Jar online. Set up an automated transfer of 10% of every paycheck, every bit of income, straight into this separate account.
Automate the fun fund.
Exactly. And then comes the iron rule of the Joy Jar. This is non-negotiable.
It is.
You absolutely cannot, under any circumstances, transfer extra money into the Joy Jar from your growth fund, your stability fund, or your needs budget. If the Joy Jar runs empty mid-month because you spent it all, too bad.
You wait.
You wait until the next month's 10% deposit hits. This hard barrier is crucial. It prevents a momentary desire for a fancy dinner or a new gadget from sabotaging your serious long-term financial goals. The 10% is the limit.
Protects the other 90%. Makes perfect sense. And the final piece of advice on using that 10%.
Prioritize experiences over things. The source really emphasizes this. Think back what feels like true wealth. Is it the garage full of cars you barely drive, or the shelf full of designer bags gathering dust?
Or is it the memory of that amazing trip, that concert with friends, that weekend away, celebrating something special?
Exactly. Experiences tend to provide much more lasting happiness and emotional ROI than material possessions, which often give a quick thrill that fades fast. Spend the 10% on building a life rich in memories, not just stuff.
Love that. Okay, let's recap the whole framework.
Right. We have the complete 25, 15, 50, 10 rule for managing money, like the 1%. It starts with 25% for growth buying assets, prioritizing ownership, leveraging time and tax advantages, automating into things like a 3-fund portfolio.
Then 15% for stability, building that crucial 5-month emergency fund in a safe, accessible, high-yield savings account to protect your progress.
Followed by 50% for basic needs, living within that limit by tackling housing and transport costs, defining needs versus wants, and using systems, not willpower, for spending decisions.
And finally, 10% for rewards the sanity fund, the joy jar, spent strategically on experiences, hobbies, and connections to make the whole system sustainable long-term.
That's the framework. Consistent application is key.
And the ultimate takeaway, especially connecting back to that first growth section, seems to be true wealth isn't really built by finding the single best stock or timing the market perfectly. It's built by consistently increasing how much you contribute to that growth engine over time.
Absolutely spot on. Which leads us perfectly into the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. This is the ultimate mindset shift of the 1%.
Okay, hit us with it.
Once you have automated this 25, 15, 50, 10 system, once it's running smoothly in the background, the job is not done. In fact, the real work, the 1% thinking, now begins. Your primary focus must shift.
Shift from what to what?
From merely restricting spending, from just managing the slices of the pie, to actively increasing the size of the entire pie, increasing the numerator, your total income.
So the focus moves from defense to offense.
Exactly. Now you dedicate your energy, your learning, your focus to acquiring more valuable skills, finding ways to earn more through your job, a side business, whatever, generating more capital.
And then feeding that extra income straight back into the 25% growth engine.
Precisely. That's how you use your current salary, not just as income to live on, but as a launch pad. A tool to break free from that illusion of freedom and transition fully into real, sustainable financial ownership. That's the end game.